it would be admitted to intensive care. Its vital signs are alarming. It's running a fever, with each of the last 9 months the hottest on record, as we hurtle towards the 1.5-degree threshold. Its lung capacity is compromised, with the destruction of forests that absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. And many of the earth's water resources, its lifeblood, are contaminated. Most concerning of all, its condition is deteriorating rapidly. Is it any wonder then that human health is suffering when the health of the planet on which we depend is in peril? More frequent and severe weather events cause deaths and injuries, as you know, and damage to health facilities and other essential infrastructure. More heat waves contribute to more cardiovascular disease. Air pollution drives lung cancer, asthma, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Chemicals such as lead cause intellectual disability, cardiovascular, and kidney disease. And drought and water scarcity affect food production, making healthy diets less affordable. Meanwhile, climate change is leading to shifts in the behavior, distribution, movement, range, and intensity of mosquitoes, birds, and other animals that are spreading infectious diseases such as dengue and malaria to new areas. Illegal wildlife trading also increases the risk of zoonotic spillover that can trigger a pandemic, highlighting the importance of primary prevention to reduce risk. The threats to health from climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss are not hypothetical risks in the future. They're right here and right now, which makes health the most compelling reason for climate action. And yet, COP28 in Dubai last year was the first COP to include a day dedicated to health. And I would like to appreciate the leadership of the United Arab Emirates on this. The causes of this crisis are multi-sectoral. So too are its impacts, and so too must be our response. Collectively, we got ourselves into this mess. Collectively, we must get ourselves out of it. No single country and no single agency operationalize a One Health approach. One Health is one of the important issues that WHO member states are now discussing as part of their negotiation of the new pandemic agreement ahead of the World Health Assembly in just 12 weeks' time. I urge you all to voice your support for the agreement. Your work this week will have a direct bearing on the realization of a One Health approach. And I welcome the 6 areas Executive Director Inge has outlined in her report in which countries can take more effective, inclusive, and sustainable multilateral action. In particular, the resolutions on air quality and chemicals, waste, and preventing pollution are important for driving sustained multi-sectoral action to protect the health of people and planet. We would also like to see health reflected strongly in the new agreement on ending plastic pollution. In this and many other areas, WHO remains committed to supporting all countries with evidence-based technical tools, including our air quality guidelines, the Global Framework on Chemicals, and the WHO Chemicals Roadmap. Excellencies, dear colleagues and friends, the patient is in peril, and the patient is our planet. Band-aid solutions will not do. We need transformative action. We must transform our energy and transport systems, our food mindsets, and work for effective, inclusive, and sustainable multilateral action, because we have no other choice. For everything that makes us different, we're one species, sharing the same DNA and the same planet. We have no future but a common future. I thank you. Asante sana. And finally, I would like to take the opportunity to appreciate President Ruto's leadership and commitment to universal health coverage, and also for hosting UNEP, one of our excellent agencies, and also for hosting this assembly. Asante sana, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much, dear Dr. Tedros and the Director General of the World Health Organization for this statement. And I think one sentence will resonate with us for the next couple of days. The physician treats, nature heals. Thank you. The Assembly will now hear statements by heads of states and governments. I now have the absolute honor to invite His Excellency William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenyan Defense Forces, to address the Environment Assembly.
Thank you very much, Madam Leila. Your Excellency, Madam Leila Ben Ali, President of UNEA-6. Your Excellency, Paula Naves, President of Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. Your Excellency, Abiy Ahmed Ali, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, and my guest who is on a state visit to Kenya. Your Excellency, President Hassan Sheikh, President of Somalia. Your Excellency, President Eric Mokwetsi Masisi, President of Botswana. Your Excellency, President Ismail Gele, President of Djibouti. Your Excellency, President Brice Oligui, President of Gabon. Excellencies, Vice Presidents, Prime Ministers, Heads of State, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Kenya. During the third Intergovernmental Negotiating Committee, which was held here in Nairobi last November to develop a global plastic treaty, I promised in this very hall to abolish visa requirements for anyone coming to Kenya. I want to announce here that we did exactly that. And we did it for a couple of reasons. Number one, because Kenya hosts the only UN headquarters in the Global South, the largest UN headquarters in the world, and also that Kenya is the home of humanity. And therefore, to require anybody to get a visa while going home is not fair. And that is why I take this opportunity to welcome all of you. Fortunately, in terms of the need to move together rapidly in order to catch up with and overtake this crisis. We are propelled by the momentum of the 2023 COP28, which took place in Dubai last November and concluded on a hopeful note with a number of historical decisions. First, COP28 emphasized that simultaneously transitioning away from fossil fuels while tripling renewables and doubling efficiency is a collective priority. Second, it positions resilience and adaptation at the center of climate action, clearly defining the limits connecting nature, health, agriculture, and food system chains, as well as peace and security. If there was ever any doubt, COP28 residing in distant future, but a real, and this distinguished assembly, the first intergovernmental global meeting after COP28. This places upon this assembly a tremendous responsibility to expeditiously deliver on its agenda in full and thereby demonstrate the power of international cooperation and effective multilateralism. This is a challenging task, which is complicated by the fact that nations of the world are also grappling with a dynamic complex of interconnected and multifaceted threats, risks, uncertainties, and shocks, ranging from a sluggish economic growth, conflict and wars, and geopolitical fragmentation. This situation is exacerbated by an alarming climate change trend, whose implications are now impossible to ignore. Record-breaking temperatures on one hand, catastrophic droughts and floods, escalating sea levels, landslides, rampant wildfires. If anybody watched TV last night, we were witnessing huge wildfires in the US, severe cyclones which have become frequent and familiar in many regions worldwide. Science is unequivocal that human activity are the primary catalyst for this phenomenon path endangering our very existence. Undoubtedly, we collectively appreciate this predicament, yet our track record on course correcting is mixed. On one hand, undeniable progress has been made on several fronts. At COP28, we operationalized the Loss and Damage Fund to support economic and non-economic losses and damages associated with adverse effects of climate change in climate-vulnerable developing nations. At the same time, the adoption of the coming Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework was pivotal in defining the actions that must be taken under and within this decade in order to curb biodiversity loss by 2030 and set the planet on a path of restoration and recovery. I welcome the progress being made in the ongoing negotiations for a legally binding global agreement humanity's collective vulnerability to a monumental crisis. To the collective determination and strategic foresight which now inspire, point out that incremental steps are no longer sufficient to target on many indicators of action and delivery. Global greenhouse gas emissions are still on the rise. Pollution patterns are veering in an alarming direction, and biodiversity is confronted no economy, community, or nation can tackle these challenges single-handedly with any hope of success. Nevertheless, agriculture and food systems, as well as nature and biodiversity. Commitment, determination, and ingenuity of our people and what they bring to these endeavors. The understanding that the people are invested in climate action agenda and that our policies and strategies must make space for their effective participation has inspired the emergence of a bottom-up climate action paradigm in Kenya, complementing our bottom-up economic transformation agenda. I take this opportunity to express gratitude and appreciation to all our partners, led by the leadership of the UN system, for supporting us in driving this agenda. I also invite you to mobilize your national leaderships as well as the leadership of various institutions in your countries to partner with us in global cooperation as a matter of great urgency. From experience, we know that the existing multilateral system is not up to the task. It is imperative for us to confront this truth with honesty and rectify glaring deficiencies which impede effective multilateralism. Our reform agenda must begin by attending to fundamental structural dimensions to realign multilateral institutions with core values of the international community, including sovereign equality and effective democratic representation as the basis of enhanced effective and inclusivity. If we fail in this critical endeavor, multilateralism in its present state might falter, struggle, overwhelmed by pervasive distrust, skepticism, and disengagement. The time has come for us to find and apply the levers of transformational change in order to address multiple priorities simultaneously. Last September, Kenya and the Africa Union Commission on climate change and call to action, which set out our vision as Africans for climate-positive economic growth and development on our continent. The summit recognized that our continent has the fundamentals to spearhead progressive progress along significantly higher costs, up to 5 times, unjust, discriminatory, and unequal state of affairs is untenable given the pressure of time, limited resources, and the imperative to actualize our is crucial in promoting the adoption of the reduced waste that are vital for ecosystems. Kenya's response to ban single-use plastic neutral, resource efficient, and circular economy. Role in the intergovernmental negotiations for the Global Plastic Treaty. In UNEP. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, agreement at the Rio +20 conference, which calls for the consolidation of headquarters functions in Nairobi. This governance fragmentation leads to policy inconsistencies, overlaps, inefficiencies, and wastage in the administration and implementation of multilateral environment agreement. Addressing environmental issues in this must change. Therefore, UNEP, as the global body with a mandate to set the environmental agenda, must enhance policy coordination, integration, and coherent implementation of the agreements while honoring each mandate. Likewise, UNEP should provide regular and robust platforms for exchange of information, knowledge, best practices and lessons learned among multilateral environmental agreements and stakeholders, fostering consensus and enhancing the science policy connection. With these important mandates in mind, I note with concern that financing from the UN regular budget and voluntary funds remain insufficient for UNEP to effectively deliver. And I am happy the UN General Assembly, the requests that have been made by UNEP on modernizing the facilities here. We are very proud that this compound where we are today is the largest UN compound on earth. By the people of Kenya, because we believe in what UNEP is doing. We would expect a lot of support from the rest of the UN community to make this facility a truly environmental headquarters of the globe. I therefore urge the UN General Assembly to secure new, substantial, and reliable funds. Additionally, I appeal to donors to increase their voluntary contributions, recognizing the urgent and vast scope of current environmental challenges. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have 6 years left to deliver on the UN 2030 agenda for sustainable development. Unless we collectively undertake radical positive action, we are on course to fail. The obligation falls on each one of us to clearly identify their role in order to define our contribution to this collective endeavor. Each of us must challenge ourselves and one another to unleash and harness our collective creativity and solidarity. May the decisions and the discussions and engagements in these sessions mark a significant leap forward in this vital goal. As I conclude, I have been informed by the chair that most of the meetings have taken very long, sometimes ending at 2 a.m. in the morning, sometimes at midnight. You have done a very good job, and you deserve some holiday after this meeting. I just want to give you some hints on where to find a place to enjoy your time after this very committed service to humanity. One, is that about 10 or 15 minutes from your